Hi, everyone. I'd like to talk a little bit about using assessments in your remote learning classes or online classes. Um, so, I know that many of us have been using Zoom a lot these last few weeks. And I find that this sort of synchronous um, mode of being able to see each other's faces and everything is wonderful. Wonderful for the students who are able to preserve that classroom community and connection and being able to see each other's faces. Um, and I think it has proved to be of great benefit for many of our students. But I do worry that some of our students are being left behind. Many students are living in a situation where they have their children at home from school, and if they do have a computer at home, for many of them, their children are using the computer for their own education, or there isn't a computer at home. Also, there are some students who either have been laid off from their jobs or are essential workers. As we know, a lot of the essential workers are among the lower paid jobs, and a lot of our population of non credit ESL fits in with that demographic. And they may be working different hours from usual, more hours than usual, and some of them may not be able to meet during these Zoom meetings synchronously with their instructors and classmates. So I'd like you to keep that in mind, and it'd be good for us to think more about balancing synchronous and asynchronous methods of instruction. And of course, assessment is very important in our instruction. So I'd like to talk about three different tools that I use and many faculty in our district have used successfully in distance education. Of course, one of them is Zoom. It is wonderful for synchronous interactions. And then we have Google Forms and Google Voice that we have used. Google Forms would be a form of asynchronous um, assessment, and then Google Voice could either be used synchronously or asynchronously. So, starting with Zoom, I think that this is the one most people are most familiar with these days. But if you're going to give an oral assessment, this can be a really good tool for conversation or pronunciation classes. I've often used a spreadsheet or a doodle poll for students to sign up for assessment times. So a doodle poll is it's a website where people can schedule things and find out people's availability. But if that's a step too far for either the students, you don't want them to have to get used to yet another website, or as a teacher, you may not have the time to learn a new tool effectively immediately. So you could even just use a Google spreadsheet and just write down your available times, and then make sure to make this spreadsheet editable by the students so that they can write their names in the slots when they're available, and that would be very easy for them to schedule their assessment times. Um, I really like using the waiting room feature during these times. You can use the same Zoom link in this case with all of your students, but if you have 5 students in a row signed up for times one after each other, the students are not going to be interrupting anyone else's assessment time if you use the waiting room feature. So they'll just be in the waiting room until one student is done, then they'll leave the meeting, and then you can accept the next student into the call. So that's a really nice feature. And of course, it doesn't have to be one-on-one. It could also be, you could assess students in pairs or groups if you want them to do more interactive type tasks. Um, so definitely Zoom is a good tool for us to use, but it is a synchronous tool in this case. I also have used a lot of Google Forms successfully. Google Forms has the advantage that you can use it with a learning management system. So you can embed a Google Form into Canvas or Moodle or whatever other learning management system, or you could just give your students a link to it. but you don't have to have a learning management system in order to use it. So you can plug it in to whatever website or learning management system you have. So it also doesn't require students to have an email address. You can make that feature available so that you can reply to your students from the Google form, but it's not a requirement. One thing that's really nice is that they have a quiz feature. So you can use this feature to create multiple choice questions, true-false questions, short answer questions. You can have like a checklist style question where students will check all that apply. And then they can write I don't know that I would necessarily assign an essay question via Google Forms, but you can have them do a short answer style quiz as well. It's not as rich in testing question types as a learning management system like Canvas or Blackboard or something like that would be, um, but it does have a number of different question types and it gets the job done. So for example, in my face-to-face class that has now been converted into a remote learning format, the students, many of them do not have email addresses, they do not have computers, and because of that, they don't have access to a learning management system to Canvas, which our district is using. So instead, I have been relying heavily on Google Forms to get feedback from the students and to do formative assessments. So that is a tool available to you, particularly if you do not have access to that learning management system. Um, Also, of course, Google Voice. This is a tool that I have used a lot during my time teaching online, but also for my face-to-face class. Um, I don't always want to give out my personal phone number to students, although I've never had anybody abuse it before. But it is really nice to have a number that's not associated with your personal cell phone. Students also don't need a login to use this software. The person who needs to sign up for it is the teacher. So the teacher will need to have a Google account and then they can ask to be assigned a phone number to their Google Voice. Teachers can use this to text or call their students, and then students can also text or call their teacher when you give the number out. It can be synchronous. You can have a regular style phone call in real time, or you could be texting back and forth in real time, but it could also be asynchronous. The students can text you at 10 o'clock at night, and if you don't have Google Voice linked to your phone, then you won't be woken up in the middle of the night when they respond to a text you sent earlier in the day, for example. I've also had faculty tell me about situations where they have the students call in to leave a voicemail message as a response to a teacher prompt. So I've even had level 1 or literacy level teachers talk about how successfully the students are able to do this because they know how to make a phone call. They may not know how to use the record your voice feature on Canvas or Linked or any of these other more professional websites, but they know how to use their phone for to talk on the phone. So that is one thing you could be using as a tool. So I hope these tools help you. I hope this conference goes well for you, and I look forward to your questions.